Jeff Passan, who is one of the premier insiders in baseball, terrible texter, but one of the premier insiders.
Yeah.
And he talked about the teams that are most likely to be adders at the trade deadline, the top additions for contenders and such. And I went down this list, and I kept looking for the Texas Rangers, and they were not listed as a team that he thinks is going to be a trade deadline adder. That was a little bit disappointing to see.
5 games under, 6.5 back, 2 games behind the armpit for second place in the West.
Yeah, so he's got the Phillies listed. They need a center fielder. He's got Cleveland. They need pitching. The Yankees, they need infield and bullpen. The Orioles pitching. The Dodgers outfield. The Brewers, Braves, Mariners, Twins, Red Sox, Royals, Cardinals, Padres.
Well,
Texas Rangers.
The Rangers are probably going to say we're getting all of our additions at the deadline or after.
Well,
we're getting all the ammunition coming back from the injuries. That will be our deadline with the money already spent.
I wonder if this is more a question of the definition or the description of a contender rather than teams looking to add. Because it may just be that Passan doesn't view them as contenders right now. Because Passan, a week and a half ago, had talked about where does every team stand in terms of where they were. And he had said that he anticipated Texas was going to be one of the more active teams. Because he's like, Chris Young is always looking to add. They're going to want bullpen help. They'll try to do things like that. I mean, every team on this list here is a team with a winning record.
Right.
And Texas doesn't have one. It may just be that Passan was saying, I'm not going to call them a contender. They may add, but they're not a contender.
Yeah, and they did the stock watch for all 30 teams I guess it was about a week ago, and the Rangers were listed as 14th, and their win average, they expect them to win 81 games, which is right at 500, which would put them less than 1% chance of winning the World Series, but it actually does put them, they say, with a 20% chance of making the postseason. That was higher than I expected to be with the current record they have. But the next couple of weeks here, July 4th is what, next week? A lot of teams know exactly what they're going to do come July 4th. I don't know that the Rangers are one of them come July 4th. I mean, they may be closer to July 20th before they know.
Orioles are 6.5 up for the first wild card spot. The Twins are a half game up for the second spot. The Rangers are 5.5 back. So not too far.
Yeah, and here's the thing, considering
I was expecting it to be more than 5.5.
Right, and just think about it. This time last week, they had Toronto, Detroit, Tampa, Kansas City, and Houston right there, all ahead of them. Now they only have Kansas City, Tampa, Houston ahead of them, between them and the final wild card spot. So there's already 2 teams that have fallen back.
And your follow-up question, which we need answered on the Franklin Franco Injury Attorney text line, is areas of need. What would be your Texas Rangers categories for trade targets, areas of need?
Well, the starting pitching has been fine, and help is on the way.
Yep.
All right, so I'm not that. The bullpen, Robertson and Yates have been fine.
Yep.
They're not the problem. Okay, could they use a 7th inning guy, like a better option at 7th inning? Sure. Is that a glaring need, especially when you considering if all the starters come back? Michael Lorenzen's probably heading to the bullpen. I mean, if Malley and DeGrom are here, let's just say the time where everybody's here. Scherzer, Evaldi, Malley, and DeGrom are all here, and then Gray. Lorenzen's probably an odd man out. You could use him as a trade chip if you wanted to. If you had it, but why would you? Why would you? Because you have him for depth. But you could throw him and Heaney in the bullpen, and all of a sudden, there's your bullpen help. And from a position player standpoint, you're going to get Young back. So you're looking for what? An upgrade for Nate Lowe?
I know it sounds off, but is that the reality when you look at the roster?
You could stand another outfielder. That's where I mean, if you look at right now, let's just look at OPS plus right now in the outfield. like just who it is right now, Wyatt Langford, Leody Taveras, Adolis Garcia. 100 is considered, this is league average OPS. So basically anything above that is going to be, this is how much above you are, this is how much below you are. Wyatt Langford is a 91 OPS plus. Adolis Garcia is a 95 OPS plus. Leody Taveras is a 75 OPS plus. They are all below league average in the outfield. That you've got to have more consistent bats. And
what are you going to do? What are you going to do besides Leody? Now, unless you're going to tell me you're fine with trading for a Langford upgrade and then stashing him away and saying your time will come, are you going to take him out of the outfield?
That's the way he's playing. Not the way he's been hitting, right?
You're not taking Garcia out unless you trade him away. You're not going to trade for anyone that you're going to try to upgrade there with. They're going to give him the respect of what he did last year to continue to, have his spot. So unless you're telling me it's going to be a center field upgrade for Taveras, you're going to bench Wyatt?
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to play well, you'll get some of your questions answered here. But I think
his OPS plus will get
that's something that could be at least better. And by the way, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a starter. If you can just get a strong utility bat, somebody who can come in and give you better at bats. You've obviously not gotten nearly what you have in the last couple of years from the catcher position. With Jonah Heim's not been hitting as well as he has in previous years. You're getting nothing behind him. So I mean, if you wanted to add another catcher, they added a catcher last year. It was a defensive one, but I mean, they added Hedges, and so I would wonder if maybe they would look at adding a catching option. To me, middle infield, outfielder that could be in the rotation there, and then a catcher would probably be some of the things that stand out.
A lot of the Tolo Shan on the fan text are saying we just need a bat in general. 806 says just need a bat desperately. 940 says needs some power, maybe a right-handed DH. And then 214 and 817 both say first base needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, the first base one I think is the more obvious one of all of them. I mean, I like Nate Lowe. I think he's a good player, but I think you can absolutely at that position, which is a very big power position. I do think he could do better.
He absolutely could do better. I mean, Peyton's been telling us that for 2 years now. That's his big enemy. But I mean, yeah, you could get more out of that in general. Jim Bowden this morning released his list of the 16 names after talking to people around the league. The 16 names of guys that are most likely to be moved at the trade deadline. And man, we did not need pitching, but there is a name in here that I saw that I was like, there is no way that this is suggested. But Bowden said that 2 different front office people suggested that Tarek Skubal from the Tigers could get traded at the deadline.
No, really?
That's what they say. It says there were 2 executives who mentioned Skubal, which totally shocked me. He has been a Cy Young Award candidate all year long. In fact, I think last time Sean ran through the odds, he was the top candidate. Yeah. He's tied for the major league lead in pitchers B WAR at 3.9. He comes with 2 additional years of control. However, both of these execs suggested that if a team like the Orioles or Dodgers, for God's sake, decided they wanted to trade significant prospects, there could be an offer so good that the rebuilding Tigers would not say no. So that's an interesting one there. You look at some of the relievers, maybe one of the names that pops out to me the most on this list, Tyler Rogers from the Giants. A lot of the guys that are on this list, like Kenley Jansen and people like that, they're going to be back into the bullpen guys. Tyler Rogers has led the majors in appearances 2 different years. He's leading the majors again in appearances this year for the Giants. So that's 3 times in about 6 seasons that he's done that. So he's a rubber arm. He's a submarine delivery guy, 2.92 ERA for the Giants, and he's somebody who's thought to be on the move. Another name that would be a buy low guy right now, just because of how he's struggled a great deal this year. He says that Randy Arozarena might get moved from the Rays.
Really? His brother.
And so if we're talking about outfielders, and if Tampa Bay decides that they're going to move on for that, Arozarena has been brutal this year. He's hitting 191. His OPS is 652. He's just not been good at all. But I mean, Arozarena was an all-star last year. People were really high on him.
A gamer.
Yeah, that's a guy that I would be a big fan of. And if you want to get really brave and you want a first baseman, you want to update or you want to upgrade Nathaniel Lowe, you could go dip back in the well, call that team you called last year, because apparently Pete Alonso of the Mets is somebody that could generate some interest.
Really? They call him the polar bear?
Yeah, but I mean they've shown that they're willing to look. We'll move people. We'll move Scherzer. We'll move whoever.
They're 14-4 in their last 18. They've been playing really good baseball. I wonder if they're ready to blow it up. Maybe they are. I don't know.
He lists 2 teams that he says could decide that they just want to overwhelm the Mets with an offer. And you're not going to be happy with either of the 2 teams. The Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros are the two teams he throws out there. So a lot of different options that are there. But to me, the one that's stunning is Skubal. Like, I would be floored if that was a guy that got moved at the deadline, because he's how often do we see the leading Cy Young candidate get moved in the middle of the year?
Mets are 13 back in the East. They're a game and a half back for the second wild card spot. So they are within striking range. And you talk about all this pitching, how the strikeout obsession could factor in.
Man, this is a dense article. This is one that I'll put it up on the Facebook page too, because it's so involved. This has to be about a 6,000 word article from Andy McCullough at The Athletic. But he wrote, "Missing bats, how an obsession with strikeouts upended the balance of baseball." And this is something that we've talked about, like, where it's like, you've got all these guys, these ace pitchers that were out. We were talking at the beginning of the year about how there was no aces really available. They were all hurt. They were on the shelf, and still offense is way down. But basically what Andy McCullough does is he goes into using Tyler Glasnow specifically as an example of, that's the guy that he got most of the quotes for the article, using him as an example of Glasnow is one of these guys who, with the advanced metrics that have been given to pitchers, that's given them such a competitive advantage over hitters. Whereas hitters, the advanced metrics that you have at the plate are not nearly the advantage that they've moved forward for the pitchers. And so because of that, guys like Glasnow came to the majors and said, I will never be a pitch-to-contact pitcher. That They say that the pitch-to-contact pitcher is similar to the mid-range jump shooter in the NBA. It's just dead. Advanced metrics tell you it's not a sustainable model. And so Glasnow had been one of these guys on the forefront who says the perfect at-bat should go no more than 3 pitches. Like you need to just 3 strikes, get them out of there. You need to make sure that you're getting swings and misses. And that when you get these, it's the equivalent of the strikeout has become, again, a basketball analogy, the corner 3. That it's just become so patently obvious to the analytics community that you need to get swings and misses. You need to have these spin rates. You need to have these different things about, third time through the lineup, all these different analytics that exist. But McCullough says that the rule changes helped boost it a little bit last year. The offense was able to catch up a little bit. We saw that little bit of a spike last year, but it's regressed again. And he says that internally in Major League Baseball, there's a concern that there's this feeling like there's only so much we can do to make this a competitive balance. Like, we may just be setting up for not a dead ball era, but an era of the pitcher for about the next decade, because there's just nothing on the horizon that gives batters quite the advantage that pitchers have.
So yesterday, Kenny Smith was on the broadcast for Mets Yankees.
He threw a nice first pitch.
Yeah, and he asked, why don't hitters go the other way? And whoever the analyst was says because they don't pay for it. It's that simple. They don't pay for it. Like, hitters do what is going to help them get paid, and pitchers the same. If you're a contact pitcher, a pitch to contact pitcher, you're not getting paid. Jordan Montgomery sat on the lot until the end of spring training, and he's not it's not like he is a massive Jamie Moyer contact type pitcher, but he's far more contacty than they want right now. That's the reality of it.